This is another video I'm finding incredibly hard to make interesting. And I have already covered, should you pay off your mortgage or should you invest? And yes, a mortgage is a type of debt. Anyway, I'm hoping this one will be fractionally kinder because there's more variables, whereas the mortgage one, you're kind of just making one comparison. In this video, we're going to talk about what debt you should prioritize paying off, and then if you should consider investing over paying off any debt. I feel like this one is more important, maybe less asked than the mortgage one, but more important than the mortgage one because the figures really don't lie in this one. First, I'll start by saying that interest is interest. So interest on debt and interest on savings or investment growth should be looked at exactly the same. So using £5,000 as an example, £5,000 at 0% is, in 5 years, is £5,000. £5,000 at 4% interest in 5 years ends up growing if it's savings, or the debt, if it's debt, ends up increasing to £6,083. £5,000 at 10% over 5 years, the debt will grow, or the savings will grow to £8,053. So you'll be 8,000 in the green or 8,000 in the red. And £5,000 at 20% over 5 years will end up growing to £12,442. So again, you'll be about £12,000 in the green or £12,000 in the red. So you can see how a higher interest rate compounds to create more debt or more interest over time. And this is just a relatively small time period because debt outside mortgages tends to be on a smaller time scale. So the first thing you should do when deciding what debts to prioritize or whether you should invest over paying off your debt is go through all of your debts and all of your savings investments and work out or get that interest rate. So for example, I'll use an example in this video that you can visualize and follow along with. Let's pretend we have a mortgage at 4% interest. You have a credit card at 0%, and let's say it's just an introductory offer. So it's got 14 months left at 0%. You've got a car loan at 6%. We have investments which we are assuming 8% growth based off historical averages, but that is not sure. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. That is just assumed. We have a personal loan at 11%, credit card at 29%, a store card at 30% interest, and an overdraft at 40% interest. Now these are all realistic values. They're not just unrealistic values I've made up. I've done a little bit of Googling to make sure that these values are realistic. Let's forget the type of debt at the moment because we are going to look at it purely mathematical. Overall, there is a little bit of an emotional element to certain debts, but we'll get into that. So mathematically, the order that these debts should be tackled or paid off, or the order that you should be investing is you should pay off your overdraft first, because remember that's 40%, that's the highest interest rate. Then it should be the store card at 30% interest rate, then your credit card at 29% interest, then your personal loan at 11%, and then assuming we're looking at it purely mathematically and financially, you should invest, returning an assumed 8%. I always invest in the stocks and shares ISA, so it's tax-free, so that the comparison is relatively straightforward. And yeah, remember, it is assumed. You've got your car loan next at 6%. Then you should tackle your mortgage at 4%. And we'll leave the credit card mathematically until the 0% introductory offer is finished. Now you do have to make sure you can do a balance transfer on the credit card, but usually balance transfers are around the 3%. At the moment, at the time of recording, balance transfers are around 3%. So it's reasonably cheap to refinance that debt. Why should you tackle it in that order? Well, let's go through the figures and visualize why. So the credit card at 0% over 14 months is still 5k. Let's not worry about the future for the purpose of this video. Then your mortgage, next, the mortgage debt of 4% over the 5 years, the £5,000 will grow to £6,083. Then next, your car loan at 6% will grow to £6,691. The assumed investment return, again, strongly it is assumed at 8%, will be £7,347. The personal loan at 11% will grow to, the debt will grow to £8,425. The credit card at 29%, the debt will grow to £17,862. The store card at 30% over the 5 years will grow to £18,565. And the overdraft at 40%, again, this is realistic, if unpaid over 5 years will grow to £26,891. So there you can see on the screen that the higher interest rate debts or growths do rack up to a lot higher figure, a lot higher monetary cost to you than the lower interest debt. And remember, I know I put investment returns on there, but do remember that paying off a high interest debt is a guaranteed return. So even if, speculative investment return at 8% or guaranteed debt return at 8%, you can do your own consideration as to whether you think you should pay it off or not. There is for the lower cost asset-backed debt, such as, the mortgage and maybe in some cases the car loans, there is a consideration to make, do I go for the 8% assumed growth of investing, or do I go for the guaranteed returns and pay off? I'll go through my personal finances now and tell you where I am. So my personal finances, I have a mortgage at 2%. I did sign up to that well before interest rates were high, and I got a 10% mortgage, a fixed term mortgage. So, in that sense, I'm relatively lucky. I have a 6% car loan. I have a 0% credit card, which I tend to balance transfer to another 0% credit card. And I have a 0% kitchen finance. Now, when it comes to the decision to put the kitchen on finance because it was 0% and it would cost no extra, I was like, well, no brainer, because inflation will eat away at that 0% debt, that debt, and there's no interest to pay on it. So I have no higher debts. And because my personal limit of what I consider acceptable debt that I don't want to prioritise paying off is 6%. So all of my debt is under 6%. Therefore, any spare money I have, I use it to pay into my investment, my stocks and shares ISA, and invest. All through this video, I have said what you should prioritize paying off. Key, that is, prioritize paying off. You should always keep up with your minimum monthly payments. If you have a 0% credit card, even though it's 0%, you have to make your minimum payments. Otherwise, you might lose that introductory offer. And likewise, with a mortgage and a car loan, even if it's a cheaper debt than your expensive debt, you should still pay the minimum payments off so you don't get in trouble with those companies. So the framework for this: find the interest rates on every debt, include in your list of interest rates or percentages what you expect investments to return, and if you're expecting over 8% growth in any investment, do question whether that's realistic. Then tackle the highest interest debt first, the most expensive debt first. Decide where your personal cutoff is. So, if you've got all your high interest debt paid off, decide, okay, where now is my cutoff? When can I decide to invest over paying off your debt? Or is 100% valid to just pay off all your debt first? Do be careful to compare guaranteed debt returns versus speculative investment growth. Treat 0% debt differently, but do know when your 0% offer ends, and make sure that you can balance transfer that debt. You don't really need to ask, should I invest or pay off debt? What you should be asking is, what percentage am I paying, and what percentage could this money reasonably earn elsewhere? I hope that's useful. Thank you.